Hey, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show. Thanks for tuning in to the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM. If you're interested in sponsoring my show, you can send me an email to the Mike Wagner Show at gmail.com, or you could also donate to the podcast. Just go to the Donate Listen site, and you can also donate whatever you like. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. For those who are interested, Anchor can give you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. We've got creation tools, allows you to record and edit podcasts so it sounds great, and they'll distribute the podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere. Spotify, Apple, Google, many more. And you can make money from the podcast with no minimum listenership. So download the Anchor app for free or go to Anchor FM to get started.
It's now time for the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show brings you famous celebrities and amazing people from all over the world. Listen online at themikewagnershow.com and on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And watch the interview on YouTube. So sit back and relax and enjoy the Mike Wagner Show.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support at sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can also download it and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, and also iTunes, Google Play, and Apple. Also take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. And also, you can also check out the Mike Wagner Show on YouTube as well. And make sure you subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show. We're here once again with a wonderful lady who grew up in Arkansas, and we're doing a follow-up from her book, Divorce in the City. She was on previously, and she's back with a new book, Bold, Brave, Beautiful Love, which will be coming out very shortly. And, of course, she's a former NFL wife and 4 kids, and she's got a good thing going. She's also an inspirational speaker, motivator, and also a coach as well, too. And she does some counseling. And, of course, I'm sure she'd like to be counseling some of the teams in the NFL right now that are probably going through some hard times, injuries, and everything else. But, of course, many of them go out with a bold, brave, beautiful love for the game. But, however, as we have it right here, this would be a different Bold, Brave, Beautiful Love. And back once again by popular demand, ladies and gentlemen, the Queen of Football, Winter Harris. Winter, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us once again.
Thank you so much for having me back, Mike. It's definitely an honor to be on, and I'm excited about tonight's show. So I'm ready to get started and jump right in. And yes, football is upon us. This is the greatest season of the year, in my opinion. My birthday is today, so it's a great day to talk about the book and football, and so I'm excited and just, glad to be on.
Well, first of all, happy birthday to you, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All
right, that's great. And also, too, you had your first book called Divorce in the City, which was published and also on Amazon as well, too. It sold pretty well. You're also doing a follow-up to your new book called Bold, Brave, Beautiful Love. You can just tell us a little bit about the book and maybe just a little recap of just briefly tell us how you got started and talk about the book.
So yes, Bold, Brave, Beautiful Love is actually my 4th book that I've written. But this book is definitely personal, and it's just been my journey of wisdom and learning how to really rebuild, especially after you've been through heartbreak. And a lot of times when we've been through heartbreak, we develop these fears when it comes to, finding love or falling in love. And so this book basically helps individuals learn how to break the cycle of loving and fear, and so they can really embrace and get the love that they desire and they deserve. So I'm really excited. It's definitely a personal book, and I think it's my best work, so I'm thrilled.
It does sound amazing, too. And, of course, it talks about, talks about relationships, talk about love, moving on, and everything else. And maybe just, you pick a couple of chapters you like to talk about and just basically what to expect, how to handle divorce, and also how do you handle it, I guess you could say, biblically or the correct way, not how they handle on social media where they just throw mud pies at each other.
Right. So with love, we go through a lot of phases, and especially when you go through heartbreak such as divorce, it can be really challenging to really identify, where you may have contributed. And a lot of times, and I want to start here because biblically we know we're called to forgive, right? Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times our difficulty with moving forward is because we struggle with forgiveness. Mm-hmm. And we are very, we have a propensity as human beings to blame. And so a lot of times, especially when I deal with my clients who are going through heartbreak or things such as divorce, I always start with the forgiveness factor because that essentially is what is going to help them move forward and really, truly move forward in their lives and find the love that they want. But they definitely have to walk the process of forgiveness. So we can't really do any work without starting there. And once we can really begin that forgiveness process, then we can get into, what were some things that you contributed to? Because if we only focus on the blaming, we really don't give ourselves the opportunity to grow. And if we don't grow, it doesn't matter what someone did to us in the past. Moving forward, we're not ever going to be our best selves because we're always looking to point the finger instead of really looking introspectively and finding, what were my flaws? What were my contributors? And what can I learn from the heartbreak that can really propel me forward into the next relationship and really thrive in that relationship versus always blaming? So that is the first thing I love to start with when I talk about moving forward after finding, going through heartbreak or divorce. And I know I said a mouthful there, but, but yes.
Well, keep it going. That's a good thing, too. And also, what comes to divorce and everything else, you carry the baggage and everything. And what's the normal process time it takes to, get through a divorce and also go through heartbreak, forgiveness, and going on to the next relationship without baggage? How many months or even how many years does it take on average to do so?
So this is one of those things that it's going to be personal because every person is different and every heartbreak is different. So it's really hard to put a time frame on it, but I would definitely suggest at least 6 months to a year if it's a long-term relationship. For relationships that are pretty much like, quick or a year or less, it doesn't really take as long to kind of move through the process and get over it. But if you were married for any significant amount of time, a year or more, you really need to give yourself at least 6 months to a year. And for those that were married, 5+ years, 2 to 3 years is not unreasonable to really walk the process of forgiveness and moving forward. And so I think it definitely is personal, but I would recommend 6 months to a year for pretty much all breakups. But people do not listen to that rule. They move on within 2 weeks, 2 days. I've seen it all. I mean, people just don't wait anymore.
Mm-hmm. Do you think social media also has an effect on, say, the quick marriages, quick divorces, and also quickly moving on? Say, if you've been married, say, a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20, or even 30, has social media contributed to the fact that you just, quickly divorce and move on in a heartbeat?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm telling you, it's because a lot of ways they are, social media has really made us not really understand the importance of waiting and being patient in love. And so it's a very microwave society. And with social media, we can literally swipe and find a new person. That's what dating has really, surrounded to. And it's sad to say, but we don't really take time and get to know people. And we don't take time to really, build friendship before we build relationships. And yeah, social media has definitely changed the game. Now, there are some positives. Let me just start there. There are some positives because what social media has also done is widen the net, right? So if you live in a small town, you have more access than you typically would if you didn't have social media. So you widen the net, you've given more opportunity, you've given a bigger, mark of option, but people, because of that, people consider others disposable. And so the options are good and they're plenty, but it also has made us look at each other as kind of disposable robots. Like if you don't, make me happy today, I'll just move on to the next person. And so it's unfortunate because what it's doing is watering down this substance that you should really find in relationships. And so good and bad, it definitely plays a role. but you have to use social media for what it's for, and it's to socialize. But, you got to set some boundaries in place and establish a foundation and really get to know the person and really find out what you want, because it's really hard to look even into social media to find a suitable partner when you don't know what you want yourself. And you're just going to find yourself just fishing with no purpose. And we see a lot of that today too. But yeah, social media is definitely different. It's transient, and it's our society. It's how we are, but it's definitely made us more microwavable, and we're just not patient or love anymore, and that's a sad thing. And this is why the divorce rate is what it is, and social media is not helping that. Actually, there's a statistic that says, I believe, in 25 to 50% of divorce cases, social media is cited as a reason for the divorce or a contributor.
Wow, that is something. And all it is just pushing the button or the like button or the thumbs up or just typing like the letters LOL, SMH, or WTH, WTF. It's like, it's come down to those three small things. Unbelievable.
Well, and not only that, if you think about it, too, because of the birth of the Internet, not only has it made people more accessible, but the other contributor, too, is that it's made it easier to cheat. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the times when social media is cited, it's often cited in an infidelity divorce case. And so, people are usually using screenshots of social media exchanges to prove their cases in divorce court, because it's easy. I mean, if you trust your spouse or you trust your significant other, it's not a common practice to really go check their social media, but it's also very easy to hide. And so again, it's really contributed to the downfall of a lot of marriages. And it's just crazy, but it's a true story. And I can't remember the exact statistical number, but I want to say it's 25 to 50%. It's a pretty significant number of how often social media is cited in divorce cases now because of how prevalent cheating is within social media.
Mm-hmm. And also, too, the fact that, nowadays it's like if you have one flaw, people cut you off. But back in the day, when you have 1, 2, 3, several flaws, you're accepted for who you are. Like, say, one person loves spaghetti, the other person doesn't. Well, I still love you. Or one person likes, say, Reese peanut butter cups, the other likes Kit Kat. I love you, although I don't care for either, or you both like Snickers, or someone changed their mind. But now it seems like that you have one flaw. It's like the whole thing is damaged. And I have to say this, is that something is wrong. I have to say that.
It is. And you know what? We operated as a society on more of a code of honor, a code of respect, a code of longevity. I mean, our grandparents were married for ages, and they went through, similar things. But again, they understood the importance of, commitment and relationship and family and marriage. And so a lot of it, and I'm not saying it's all good, because one of the things I do believe that as a society, we're becoming more understanding of how it's not necessarily good to remain in toxic relationships. But unfortunately, because of how lazy we've gotten, we're calling really just hard work in relationships toxic, and everything is not toxic. That's hard work. It's just hard work that's required when you do relationships. But they understood the importance of really kind of doing relationship and doing the hard work. And then at the end of that, you get the generations of sound family structure. But of course, we do not see that at all today, and it's bad, because it has definitely impacted our society. And I think people would just be completely ignorant to assume otherwise. We're definitely seeing the impacts of the family structure being broken down.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that needs to be stressed as well, too. And we'll talk a little more about the book. And, of course, we'll talk about a little bit of football and how that ties in. You listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition way. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, and Apple. You can also take The Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device and subscribe to The Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. We're here with Arthur Winter Harris, the author and also of Divorce in the City, with her follow-up to a new book, Bold, Brave, and Beautiful, coming out around October. She's also a former NFL wife and has 4 beautiful children, and also talked about, we talked about divorce and everything else, and, forgiveness and everything. Of course, being herself a former NFL wife and, talking about one of the more prominent players, especially on the Washington Redskins and, life in the NFL. And I guess the question is, it's like, for an NFL wife, it's like, how do you manage your husband's career on the field, and especially, just going nonstop, 12-hour days, like with the playbook and injuries and dealing with coaches and media and everything else?
I will say it's a unique experience. People often ask me, how was it? And I'm very grateful for the time that my ex-husband spent in the NFL. It's definitely not an opportunity that everyone gets, so it's a unique lifestyle. He did have a lot of injuries. He had 2 ACL surgeries and 1 shoulder reconstruction surgery. So injuries, unfortunately, are just a part of the game. And so you literally have to learn how to adjust and just play through them. But one of the things that does teach you is just the ability to overcome and just, go through adversity, and you just come out better for it. But the NFL was extremely good to us. We have lifelong friendships as a result of that. I mean, I talked to quite a number of the wives today just because it was my birthday. But I enjoyed my time. I don't really have anything negative that I can say. His coach at the time was the legendary Joe Gibbs, and so it was very nice to, be with the Redskins during his second time or second, stint with the Redskins as a coach. During that time, Sean Spring was there, and we had Sean Taylor, who actually passed away. And that in and of itself just left a tremendous impact with everyone on the team. But I just remember, after Sean passed away, all of the wives got together at Dan Snyder, who is the owner's house. And we just had a time of togetherness. And at that point, I realized how football really can be family. It was family for us. And so we were able to grieve, the loss of him as a family. And it just, we have been tight since. There's pretty much not anyone that I'm not still connected to in some capacity that, we're a part of the team. It's just a very close, tight-knit community. I just spoke at the NFL Wives Conference back in June. They had me out to speak in Miami. And, again, close-knit community. It's great. I got a chance. Actually, I'm meeting up with Adrian Peterson's wife in a couple of weeks, but he's now with the Skins, and I actually met her at the conference in Miami. So it's just, it's great that we have this community. And I'm not even, married to my ex-husband anymore, but I still have this community and network of women that I'm still connected to and that are still very supportive because, again, I hate to say it, but divorce is very prevalent in professional sports. In fact, the divorce rate in, general society is 50%. Well, in professional sports, it's 90%.
90%? Wow.
It is 90%. That is a true number. It is 90% in professional sports. And honestly, so this is the thing. There's a few statistics here. So 90% of players divorce. 3 years within playing, most of them are broke and they are unemployed. So that is a true statistic. Most players of some sort, especially in the NFL, they're broke within 3 years and they're unemployed within 3 years of retiring from the game. But most of those divorces, the 90%, happen after they retire from playing football.
Wow,
so, yeah,
that is surprising.
90%.
And it's 9%, and it's 9% in football, or is it 9% in all sports?
It's 90% in all sports.
All sports, okay. And what's a percentage in football when it comes to divorce? Is it still the 9%, or is it like maybe 80, 70, or what do you think about that? I would look more towards the 60 to 70 range, but it's still pretty high. Mm-hmm.
It's most players are on, I hate to say that, but most players are on like their second or third wife by the time they really get good and retired out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like most wives that I'm meeting now, even when I went to the wives conference, like their second wives, they're not even the wife that they were married to.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's real. I mean, and you have to understand they're in a completely different environment. They have a lot of access to women, and that's kind of one of the things that they have to learn to not just juggle, but really mature in. And they themselves, you know, a lot of these kids come into the game or come into the league still kids. Like, they're still kids, but now they have access to platform. They have access to money. They have access to influence. And as a result, they have access to women. Mm-hmm. So if they are not, you know, coming in with a sense of maturity and understanding family and family structure and marriage, and that marriage requires commitment, then you're going to see what you see now, which is the prevalence and divorce. And so it's unfortunate, but yeah, we get that all the time at the live conferences. That's one of the things they tell us. And they do, there's a great ministry, I can't think of the name of it right now, but there's actually a ministry that caters to strengthening professional sports marriages because the divorce rate is so high.
Wow, that is something. And I was going to ask you about, too, when it comes to the divorce rate, do you think having concussions in the NFL has to do with divorce? Like, say, if they get a concussion, the player will make a bad decision or say something like irrational or think different after a concussion. Do you think concussions also contribute to divorce? Like, they'll end up like thinking different, acting different after a concussion?
But you know what? This is such a great question, and you're honestly challenging me. I was asked this very question at the WISE conference back in Miami. If I felt like that was a contributor and how much influence did I think that it played, I'll give you the same answer I gave her. I don't know, but it's a great question. And now that you've asked me, and I've heard this for the second time, I may even push to see if there's a study that can be done, because I do believe it is a factor. I mean, I know of several wives that definitely complain of just the mental issues that their husbands have after they retire because of the concussions. And we have to be real about it. I mean, when you're getting hit, they say getting hit in football is like getting hit by a Mack truck. Mm-hmm. I mean, over and over again, not just once, but over and over again. So you have to know that is going to cause, some sort of brain damage over time. And if your brain is not healthy, then of course other parts of you are going to be impacted and not healthy as well. Mm-hmm. So I think there needs to be a study done. I would be interested to know the results and the correlation, but there probably is. I can't say that there would be, because again, our brain impacts our emotions. It impacts our, decision making. Mm-hmm. And so if you have these players that have been playing since they were, 5, 6, 7, 8, some of them, years old, and then they, retire at, 30, 35, 40, yeah, that's a long time to be going through that type of brain damage, essentially. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's a great question. I definitely was asked that at the conference. So I don't think it's a wrong question to ask. It's probably the right question to ask. But again, how do we address that question? But then how do we implement that to where we get change? And that's the tricky part, because this is something that these guys love. It's something they grew up doing, and it's a passion. They're not going to stop just because you tell them, hey, if you play the sport, this could potentially be your end. A lot of them would still play anyway because they love the game that much. Mm-hmm. But definitely a great question to ask, and I don't think you're wrong. I don't think the person that asked me or the wife that asked me back in June is wrong to ask it as well, but it could be a factor. It really could.
I greatly appreciate that, too, because the fact with Antonio Brown having such erratic behavior with his behavior, getting cut by Oakland and New England after leaving $17 million at the table in Pittsburgh, Le'Veon Bell, of course, leaving so much in Pittsburgh and, playing with the, at the time of this conversation, the winless Jets. And, of course, you had Junior Seau, one of the great linebackers, taking his own life, Sean Gale from the Chicago Bears, and, quite a few others. Brandon Marshall having a number of concussions, acting irrational. I think that's one of the triggers that just really sets things off when it comes to concussions. And do you think also possibility, like with the making of the helmets, like more padding, more protection, do you think that's also a contributing factor to more concussions or less concussions, or is it simply, hey, that's part of the game?
You know what? There's been a lot of advances. It's so funny. I actually had an opportunity to speak with Dr. Jacqueline Hood Martin, who is actually the wife of Roland Martin. And she helped co-produce a film that discussed advancement in preventing concussions and developing this new helmet, just improve the ability for the helmet to protect the brain, right? Mm-hmm. So improve the technology behind creating the helmets. And so she had a whole film and documentary created discussing this very thing. I do believe that as football progresses and as they implement, more studies, and they're doing that now. I mean, there is a standing fund that actually pays for former NFL players, to go to UNC, actually, to get tested. And it's free testing. They cover their travel. They literally cover everything. But they're looking for players, specifically former players, to come and do the testing so they can really see, what the effects are after these players retire, but then go back to, these scientists and designers and really see if they can implement technology to really help protect them as in their helmets as they continue in the sport and play. But there's a whole documentary about this very thing, and I do think, as we progress and we see football, continue on, they're going to have to address the issue. It's not something we really can't ignore anymore, just because of the suicides that are happening, the amount of depression that NCAA is having to deal with that as far as, college players now. But the Players Association actually set up a whole fund to really devote time towards players' mental health. And so they now cover mental health, psychiatrists, psychologists, mental health professionals. They even launched an initiative, I believe last year, if I'm not mistaken, to really bring on mental health professionals for each team, like make it a requirement for each team to have a team of mental health professionals to really help kind of address this concussion issue, because it's a real beast. It's a real thing that they have to address, and we're losing a lot of players prematurely, unfortunately due to suicide because of this issue. So I do think you're going to see more of the helmet technology come into play. They're already working on it now. I think the challenge, though, too, is not just to address it at the NFL level. You've got to come down and even address it as far as the Little League level, because this stuff doesn't start when they just get to the pro level. This starts because they're playing young. And so there's even been recommendations, and we talk about this in this wives group that I'm in on, or it's a private group for current and former NFL wives. But there's a lot of us who actually don't allow our sons to play tackle football until a certain age, and some of the wives are adamant about not allowing their kids to play at all because of the concussion issues. So it's not something that's going away, but I do feel like at this point in the juncture, players are being proactive with pushing the NFL to address it. This is where you're seeing a lot of the lawsuits popping up. That you're going to start to see even more of that. And I mean, there's one pending now, and a lot of players that are pushing back on, making owners responsible for taking care of these players, not just paying them to, win games and win Super Bowls, but to really care about the whole player. And that starts with caring about, their mental health and their physical health as well. So yeah, there's definitely, this is just heating up. This whole topic is going to be a discussion for years to come until there's a legitimate structure in place to combat it. So yeah, it's definitely a prevalent topic.
And of course, we talked about concussions as well, too, and also other injuries, like, say, with torn ACL and separated shoulders, and even worse before concussions was the spinal injury, like from a very tiny, vertebrae that's cracked, very insignificant, to obviously the ones that put you in a wheelchair for life, like Mike Utley of the Detroit Lions and quite a few others. And also, too, when it comes to injuries and everything else, not just concussions, like, say, with torn ACLs, broken legs, separated shoulders, broken arms, fingers, and everything else. Do you think that can also be a contributing factor to putting a strain on a relationship or marriage when it comes to those other type of injuries besides concussions?
Yeah, and I will say, too, I don't know if anyone ever has seen, ESPN usually goes back and features former players. But Jerome Bettis actually did a segment, and he was showing, and this, what is his name? Oh my gosh, it just left me. What is his name? Oh, anyway, well, I'll think of it. It'll come to me. But anyway, so Jerome Bettis, but a lot of them, how they literally have to utilize mobile, wheelchairs to get around their house, or how they have to use canes to get down their stairs. Like, what type of quality of life? So one of the things that we talk about as former NFL wives is how a lot of wives are now caregivers. They're not just so, think of it, you think you're going to spend this great life after retirement, but you're not a wife anymore. You're a caregiver, because now the injuries have caught up to your husband, and you're literally responsible for taking care of a person who's aged 20, 30 years prematurely because of the sport. And so, it's going to put a strain on a relationship, because most women don't sign up to be a caregiver until their husbands are, 70, 80, 90 years old. Mm-hmm. And they're doing it at 40 and 50. I see it all the time. This is a common discussion in the group that I'm in. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of divorce that happens. There's a lot of, strain on finances. That's another thing. And finances is one of the top contributors to a divorce is money. So, it's sad. It's a really sad epidemic, but this is very prevalent in the NFL world. I honestly think it's prevalent in most professional sports, but with NFL, it's a special type of sport. It's a very violent sport. I would consider it no different than boxing. Boxing's a very violent sport. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about hitting people day in and day out, or getting hit. There's going to be some repercussions because of that, but there's got to be a way to address it. And the players and their families are definitely starting to push back. And like I said, this conversation is not going away. It's just getting started, but it's definitely, you see the other side of it. I personally see it. I know people talk about it on the news, but because I have, so many friends that are, walking through the other side of, retirement and really having to deal with these issues in real life, it's sad to see. It's not fun to watch. And so, hopefully everyone can continue to band together and just push forward into really finding solutions that can be beneficial to the players and their families.
Mm-hmm. And also, too, we'll talk about retirement, finances, and everything else. You hit upon a great point. You listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition way. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support at sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/the Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also, Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, and Apple. Also, take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device and subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. We're here with author Winter Harris, the author of Divorce in the City, with her follow-up to her new book that's coming out very shortly, Bold, Brave, Beautiful Love. Also, former NFL wife, inspirational speaker, author, motivational coach, and more. And we've been talking about the NFL a great deal, of course, being a former NFL wife, and of course, with injuries, concussions affecting love relationships, marriages, and contributing divorces around the 50 to 90% range. And another one, too, involving money as well, too, that they may be the highest paid, and also retirement as well, too, that being around, say, early and being caregivers. And I was going to ask you something about the money aspect as well, too, that obviously money plays a part in divorces and everything. And do you think football players are actually managing their money very well, like days past, or do they need to be educated and prevent, say, like divorces where the ex-wife will take, say, 50, 60, even like maybe 99.9% or something, close to 100.
Right. So let me tell you, no, there is not enough education when it comes to managing finances. And unfortunately, you have to look at the background that a lot of these players are coming out of. They're coming from disadvantaged communities. So they're probably the first in their family to come into this type of money. So there isn't a whole lot of education. There's a lot of being taken advantage of, especially when it comes to agents and financial managers. I have seen it happen. Actually, when my ex-husband played, there was a finance manager that was, I want to say there was a case brought against him, but he basically talked a lot of the players into investing a lot of money into stock and real estate, and he basically scammed them out of this money. They lost a lot of money with this particular finance manager, and that is a true story. It made the news, but it was a big deal, and a lot of players from that particular incident are still struggling financially because of what happened to them and that scam. So this is something that, no, they don't address. And I don't feel like you just address it when a person gets money. That's honestly the worst time to address an issue, because to them, it's the first time they've really had that type of money. And all they think is spend, spend, spend. So I believe that in order to truly address the financial issue, because it is an issue, because again, they're a lot of times the first in their family to have money, they actually have family members on their payroll. So it's not just them taking care of themselves and maybe their families. Now they're taking care of extended families. And so this is the reason why they go broke after 3 years after retirement, because there's so many people on their payroll and they're not bringing in that money anymore. So that education needs to start when these players come into college, and educated them that, hey, if this should go great and there's a possibility that you end up in the NFL, let us train you appropriately how to manage your finances so that when you come into, this lump sum of money, you're not going crazy and you're really preparing for the future. The average NFL career is only 3 years. That's not a long time. 3 years, that means if you make, let's say, a $10 million contract, how do you really live? Like maybe you only make $500,000 a year and maybe invest the other, $500,000 to $1 million a year that you're getting over a 5-year period. That's how you teach a person to really, prepare for the future, because again, the average NFL career is only 3 years. So that's a short amount of time to really maximize that type of money. But that type of education is limited. And unfortunately, this is why you see those stats where players are typically going broke within 3 years of retirement. So no, that is a huge conversation as well. And there are so many players that really struggle. And that is also what plays into the divorce. Because these women that they're married to, they come into a catered lifestyle. Now that the money's gone, a lot of these women are having to go back to work to make ends meet, because a lot of the players went into the NFL and did not get a college degree, even though they went on a college scholarship. So they're not employable once their football career is over. So that, the money's gone. Now the woman is the sole breadwinner. That changes dynamics in a relationship. So this is all contributors that go into why the divorce rate is so high post-retirement.
Mm-hmm. And also speaking of retirement as well too, that a lot of the players nowadays are getting counselors coming in and giving them a job fair, like say after your 3 years are up, 5 years are up, or 10, or even Tom Brady, like 20 years going on. It's like, I don't think you need to tell him what to do afterwards. It's $142 million. Go find another job and everything. And there was one point I was going to mention as well. The $10 million contract, a lot of it is laden with incentives. Some are achievable. Some are like an all-star or something, all-pro, and some is just impossible, almost like you have to break the record like 10 times over, like say for quarterback Tom Brady numbers or something. Yes,
and you have to understand, too, a lot of these players are just getting to where their money is guaranteed. Times of old, the contract, even a $10 million contract, was not guaranteed. They're just now getting into guaranteeing contracts. And so could you imagine, you may sign for $10 million, but there's no guarantee you're going to see $10 million. This is why it's so great to see some players like Emmitt Smith or Deion Sanders, or even going into basketball like Michael Jordan and Shaquille O'Neal. Of course, the incomes are completely different between basketball and football, but even still, these men, or Magic Johnson, like they set the standard for really learning how to manage their finances well and developing multiple streams of income so they can live comfortably after their career in professional sports ended. That is the education that a lot of these players are needing now. And especially when, the income is not necessarily, it's better. It's much better than it was. Even practice squad players are making much better than they were when my ex-husband came into the league. So the finances are there, but the education is not, and that's the missing piece. And you have to address it. Can you imagine making that kind of money and then 3-4 years after making that kind of money, you're dead broke? Like I know players that are working at like car dealerships. Like, that's what they do for a living now.
Mm-hmm.
And these are players that made $30 million. I'm not kidding. I know I could name one now, but I know for a fact $30 million, and he works at a car dealership. He's well. I mean, he does not even have remotely close to what he made.
That is something as well too, and of course, players pawning off their Super Bowl rings, and most notably Joe Gilliam pawning off 4 Super Bowl rings to satisfy his drug habit and passing away. And of course, I did read something about practice players. I mean, they may not get hit as hard, but they're still getting paid pretty good. So you have that. But then also too, I remember back in the day, which I should like to see more, that NFL players who live out 3-5 years should make more money. Just go in front of the camera, hold up like a soft drink or a piece of paper, or say like a book, and just smile. Whatever happened to those days?
Yeah, that's so true. Learning how to maximize your time. But again, that's all education. Like players for the most part, when they come into the league, I mean, they're still kids. Like, they're still kids, they're still growing, they're still maturing. So, unfortunately, it's sad to say there has to be a lot of hand-holding, but it's not like the money isn't there to hand-hold. I mean, they do it in college. Let's just be real about it. They pretty much have people that manage everything for them, so they don't lose their scholarship, so the school doesn't lose its, good games and booster funding. So, this is the same structure that needs to move on to NFL. I mean, it's just the reality. I'm telling you, I will say, like, I appreciate the University of Arkansas and how their structure was, because it did set my ex-husband up for success after the game was over. And so that is another thing I actually stress, because I work with some, little leagues and different organizations or high schools, and I'll moderate sports panels. But one of the things I stress to them is, like, you got to have a backup plan. Football's not going to last forever. But if you are fortunate enough to get a full scholarship, just graduate. Like, you got one job. These people are doing everything for you. Just graduate, do the work. But my ex-husband's advisor for, the athletic advisor at the time, her name was Deb. So Deb actually set him up, and she made his schedule for him. She told him what classes he had to go to. But as a result of her good advising, she structured his schedule. He had 2 degrees by the time he graduated from the University of Arkansas. So he's actually a double major in IT and management. And of all places in Washington, D.C., he does not struggle to find a job, period. He would never, because of that particular skill set. And IT is very prevalent in the D.C. area. But it's because of her help he was able to do that. But he had a lot of teammates that didn't even graduate, and they had full scholarships. How do you not graduate and your school is free? You have nothing else to do but practice, go to class, and work out. That is your time. So get the degree. Why are you wasting time, doing other things? You have no business. You essentially have no life. All you're doing is working out and playing sports and traveling. Get the degree. And so many don't. And that's the sad part to me. So I do feel like that particular protective structure needs to be kind of carried off into the NFL. And NFL is just more life skills and finance management and, relationship management. They need all of it. But that doesn't need to stop just because they leave, the NCAA. That needs to carry on into the NFL. And I think you would see a lot of things start to change for the better. But, the Antonio Brown situation is it's so ridiculous. My heart goes out to him, but I can't really fault anyone but him.
Exactly.
A lot of people want to blame Tomlin. I can't blame Tomlin for a grown man. I mean, you have to choose to do some of the things that AB is doing. So while I'm sorry that, he's gotten himself in this situation, I place the blame on him. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That whole situation just irritates me. And I hear so many different perspectives. Like, it's Tomlin's fault. He spoiled them. And I'm like, okay, coaches are employees as well. They're almost equal to players in a lot of ways. And yes, Tomlin I believe he's been great for the Steelers franchise. AB is a grown man, so he's responsible for himself. Mm-hmm. So I blame him for his troubles. I'm sorry. That's my 2 cents. That's my 2 cents on that situation.
And of course, just because, Mike Tomlin at the time of this, conversation, everything is winless doesn't mean you just get rid of him right away. Look at Chuck Noll. He went through some really bad seasons in the 80s. I mean, Mark Malone at quarterback, but it's like he still had a job until he retired. It's like they should have the same standard for Tomlin. Just because you have one bad season, we're not going to get rid of you. So
right.
I think that should be with the NFL as well, too. It's like, Lion fans could have said goodbye to Matt Patricia just because he's 6-10, but already they've been unbeaten so far. They tied what would have been a horrible Cardinals team, but they're improving with Kyler Murray. They've beaten the Chargers. They've beaten Carson Wentz and the Philadelphia Eagles, although they've had no healthy receivers. I mean, they're playing some really good ball. I mean, look at the NFC North. It's like I predict the last place team is going to be like 9-7, and maybe take the last wild card for all I know.
Yeah, I mean, you're completely right. I mean, and then too, we have to. I mean, there's politics in football. Let's just be honest. There's politics, but coaches don't have sole decisions. There's a whole back office. There's a general manager. The owners. All of that plays a factor into whether or not a player stays on or off, right? There's a lot of money that's invested. So, I mean, we're looking at bottom lines here. You can't just be so quick to discard a player if they horribly impact your bottom line. But, yeah, I've just been in so many different conversations. I probably shouldn't concern myself with it, but I love my team, but I can't support bad behavior. I mean, I kind of see that in I was a huge RG3 fan, and he soured me too. So I mean, I don't support bad behavior in players. I just don't. So I don't support it either.
And do you think RG3 would have been a better player if he were given more time, or was he better off with another team, or was he just simply overrated?
No. Oh gosh, I have to choose my words carefully here.
Just make sure you don't do the F word or F bombs or S and T and all that.
No, it would never be that. So I'm going to be honest. I personally feel like he was a gifted player, but I believe his arrogance got the best of him. Mm-hmm. I had the opportunity to meet him on a few occasions and be in his presence, and he just was so arrogant. And I think he became full of himself, and so full of himself that he stopped doing the work. And so I believe he could have been great wherever he was, but he just got so arrogant and lazy. So I think RG3 was a personal failure more so than maybe a bust. He was an interesting person. I hope that he's matured and gotten better, and definitely not the person that I encountered and that others encountered. But he just, that was that is the epitome of having too much too soon and not having the maturity to handle it. That is my personal opinion on that.
And of course,
I'm trying to be kind.
I understand. He also had his dad with, too, in a lot of negotiations. Do you think having a parent with him at his age was a good thing or a bad thing?
I honestly think in his aspect, it wouldn't have hurt or helped. And I say that because I think it was great that his dad was really involved. And unfortunately, because players oftentimes lack the familial support that they need in these cases to make solid decisions, because they are like a easy target to get taken advantage of. So I think, his dad being there, especially in his situation, was a good. By the same token, parents too can become enablers. And I believe his family was an enabler of his bad behavior. So it was good and bad. I could see the bonus, but I can also see the downside. And it was just, towards the end there, especially his stint here in Washington, he was just not a very nice person. And so I personally just think it really just impacted everything for him. And, that's where you saw kind of the downward spiral, because he was talented. It wasn't that he did not have talent. And I'm not going to sit here and act like he didn't. He was killing it. But he just got so full of himself that it just literally, it ruined his ability to be productive. So I don't think his dad had anything to do with his personal stuff.
That is something as well, too, just to clear that up. And another Redskins question when it comes to quarterback. How do you think Kirk Cousins is going to do with the Minnesota Vikings, considering it's his final year and all the pressure's on, especially in that $84 million contract he signed? He's another ex-Redskin who they signed him to, like, what was it? I'm trying to think of that term, like the 1 year extended contract or franchise tag or something.
Now, who had to say that one more time, Mike? Who had to franchise tag?
Kirk Cousins, quarterback of the Redskins, and playing for the Minnesota Vikings, signed that $84 million deal. Do you think it was good for him to go to the Vikings, or could he have stayed with the Redskins?
Oh, no. Let me tell you, every player who has done that and went to another team and has left the Skins, hopefully was making a home here, and then went to a different team, has always done better at the new team. So, no, absolutely, go get your money. I support any player that leaves and does well in a different place. I'm not against it. I know, there's ups and downs, but a good friend of mine actually had a similar experience, and they just wouldn't pay him. But Lorenzo Alexander, he has been phenomenal with moving on to the new team. So I support players. No, I don't think he should have stayed. I think he did what was right for him. And I whether or not it works out in long term, remains to be seen. But I think that he did do right by leaving Washington. Completely happy that he made that decision. I support him. He's a great guy as well. But I definitely support the move. And I have seen players who do better. I hate to say that, but it's true. They've done better. So, oh well. It is what it is.
And, of course, there's life in the NFL as well, too. And, of course, it's early in the season at this time of conversation, but definitely like to have you back and talk more football and give us an update on your book, Bold, Brave, Beautiful Love. And afterwards, what are some of your upcoming projects?
So I'm excited. We have a lot going on, and I would love to be back again. As you can see, I love talking about football. It's one of my favorite things to discuss just because I love the sport. But as far as personally, yes, the book will be coming out next month, and I'm really excited to really just help people grow in their relationships with others and themselves. And then just to really embrace love and all its fullness. But this book not only is about, being able to find love, but it's also about being able to find and embrace love within yourself. So I think that this will be a great read and a great encouragement to those that have the opportunity to read it. I have my conference coming up October 18th and 19th in the Washington, D.C. area, which is, you can find more information at createdtobe.com. But if you go to my website, thewinterharris.com, you'll see lots of information there, and you can keep up with everything I have going on. There's a lot of good stuff in the works. So I'm just thrilled, and I'm excited at, what's going on in my life, and it's only getting better, so I'm just excited to see where this thing goes in the future.
That is amazing, too, and don't forget to keep us up to date. And you also have a good thing, which is called a Good Thing University. Encourage everybody to take some classes.
Absolutely. So Good Thing University is basically helping women discover the good thing in them, and that's definitely a Christian principle. When a man who finds a wife finds a good thing. And so we're helping women discover the good thing in them or good thing in you. So that's where you get the Good Thing University. So we're focusing on you. We're focusing on growing the woman as a whole. So we're really excited just to see where that goes. And I'm just grateful just to have so many things in the works. We have a retreat that's coming up in January. It's a healing retreat. And then next year I will have a box brunch and a men's conference. So there's a lot of neat things happening in the Winter Harris brand. And I'm just excited to really be able to impact and touch the lives of people from all walks of life, not just, the professional sports world. Even though I'm closely connected to it, there's so many other things that I have going on. So I'm grateful.
That is amazing. And Winter, I just want to say you've been fantastic. Love to have you on again soon, talk more football, and just do us a favor, keep us up to date. Looking forward to having you on again soon, and maybe we'll talk before the Super Bowl or so.
Yes, that would be great. Hopefully by this point, I will know how my fantasy football team is doing. So hopefully I have great news to report. But yeah, I mean, I like even keeping up with college players, like, because players are getting ready for signing day. So I love to see who are like the hottest players coming out of the college arena. And then my son is 16, so we're getting into some of that now, and we have colleges reaching out already. So I love NCAA football as much as I love NFL. I like football altogether. So yeah, I would love to come back during some Super Bowl talk. I'm actually due to go to the Super Bowl this year. It's going to be in Miami for the first time since 2007, and I actually went to that one as well.
Wow.
So I'm excited. I'm excited to go back to Miami to experience the Super Bowl again and just enjoy some of the festivities. But yeah, I'm excited about the season, and I'm curious to see who will end up in the playoffs and subsequently the Super Bowl. So yeah, it's going to be a good year. That's
amazing. And you know something too, with all the ventures that you have, you can add the College Scouting Report to your Winter Harris Corporation.
I should. I really, really should, because I have lots to say. Let me tell you. I went to my son's game last Friday night. So he wears his dad's number, and I always thought he would be a receiver like his dad, but come to find out, he's a really great corner. And so he got bumped up from JV to varsity, so he's been starting his varsity at his high school team as a corner. And last week he had 6 tackles and 2 interceptions, but 1 interception for a touchdown. It is really, really exciting to see him, find and carve out his own way and really excel at it. But let me tell you, my sister says, I'm going to change sides if you keep screaming like this at a high school game. And I said, okay, I will work on this.
Amazing. That's so amazing.
Way too involved, but it's exciting. It's so exciting, and they love the game. It's in them, but to really see them enjoy it and, excel, it's great to watch as a mom. So I told him I'm totally a fan in the stands, but yeah, he had a great game last Friday, so it's nice to see. It really is.
That is amazing. Looking forward to having you on back again soon, Winter, and keep us up to date, and let's keep this a good thing.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me, Mike.
Thanks for listening to The Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Listen online at themikewagnershow.com and on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And watch the interview on YouTube. Also, become a sponsor of the program or donate today at themikewagnershow.com. Join us again tomorrow for another episode of The Mike Wagner Show.